The OGL, the Open Gaming License of Wizards of the Coast, is not open source. I just had to say something because this has been driving me up the absolute wall every time I see this. They want to give you this image that it's open, it's a community thing. I mean, we own it, we're a corporation, you're not, but it's a community thing where it's totally open. Don't do these things. Right, what are those things in this horrible mess of legalese? What do we have? Notice something important. You cannot say these sentences without passing out. If you try and start at the beginning of the sentence and read it out loud, you'll die from asphyxiation. This is not normal language. It's not designed to be read well. You can write these things well, but this person has chosen, the writer here has chosen not to do that, and they've done that on purpose. Okay, so what are we allowed to do here? And what are we not allowed to do? This, everything, specifically excludes product identity. That's fine, that's normal. We don't usually let people pretend to be other companies. Like, we don't let them copy. Disney won't let you copy Mickey Mouse because it's a trademark, and if I see Mickey Mouse, I'll think that's produced by Disney. So it's as good as saying the name. So you're not allowed to use the Mickey Mouse logo, and that's fine. So presumably you weren't allowed to use the Wizards of the Coast logo. Maybe that's what it means. But instead means E. Product identity. Okay. You've already said that. Find more weird language. Logos. Yep, that's fine. And identifying marks, including trade dress. Is that dress is used when trading? Artifacts, creatures, characters, stories, plots, thematic elements, dialogue, incident, language, artwork, symbols, design, depiction, likenesses, formats, poses, concepts, themes, and graphics, photographic and other visual or audio represented. Okay, so you can't copy art. You can't make a derivative of the art, or you can't use the original artwork itself. This is the point where a number of people who only know of the word open source and saw this will think, oh, that's fine, open source means you can sort of make compatible things with the game, but you could do that anyway. So this isn't really giving you additional legal rights. For something to be open source, what it means is the source files are open, so you can take the source files and look, let me give you some examples. And we'll get onto Frylock and this guy in a bit. Okay, we have here common articles, and maybe if you're just seeing this, you think it's quite reasonable, and they say, here are open source RPGs. Let's see. Okay, Osric. Is that open source? So let's have a look at the license on the left-hand side. Oh, they got an RSS feed. I like it. It's nice. Osric, open license. Okay, open game license. Promulgated by Wizards of the Coast. Okay, so no open source. And indeed, if we look for the source files, I don't think we'll find them here. At least I haven't seen them, and it's not really, it's not really pushed out. Like you might have to dig for a while with some of these, and it's a common pattern. So if you've got a book, you want to change it. You're like, oh, I don't like halflings. We should just be honest. Call them hobbits. They're hobbits, all right? I'm gonna copy paste hobbits, and I'm gonna remake the book. You can't do it. Which means, because you don't have the source files. So the source files are not open for review, modification, etc., etc. Let's have a look at another attempt. Stardrift RPG. So that's this next. This next here, Stardrifter. So what do we have? Plain text files. Very good. We got, let's see, what's in this text. If we look at the actual files. Oh, plain text once again. Very good. So the only thing we'll need now is the license. So that should be under license.md. Unfortunately, they don't have that in. Maybe, well, look under here. Okay, pretty good. So they haven't stated the license up front, but if you get the book, it says this is released under Creative Commons Share Alike. That's good. If it says non-commercial, it's not open because you can't change it and do as you want with it. You can change it and do what you want with it within your own home, which I could do anyway. Like it's not really special. I know I can do things on my own computer. I don't need anyone telling me. I don't need a license for it. I'll grab Mickey Mouse right now and turn him upside down just for the hell of it. I can't publish that, but it doesn't mean anything to say you're allowed to do something in your own house. I know I can do it in my own home. Okay, books under Creative Commons, share alike. That's fine. That's my favorite type of open source. It's the most open source there is, in my opinion. except for Mixed Signals logo, of course, trademarks and company assets which were reserved. There's the only sticking point. Pretty good, pretty open source. Which are the assets? Is this an asset? Is that image an asset? Is this image an asset? Which ones are the assets? It would be good to have this kind of thing cleared up. So yeah, it looks like, I assume they're doing this through Pandoc and therefore LaTeX, take a bunch of markdown files. Anyway, however they're doing it, I'm going to give that a B-, pretty open source. Now, just for reference, let's have a quick look at something which is actually open source from the software world. This is a little script I made. I can't remember if I stuck the license on it. It's 300 lines of Python. It doesn't really matter. Do what you want with it. But in theory, this is open source. The idea is you have a script which makes a dungeon. This is the mine of the dwarves. It's not a very good script as yet. It's not been made yet. You get the source code so you can run it and you can make, look at that, your own dungeon. And importantly, if you want to change things so that, let's say, guard post. Where's guard post? Okay, we'll go to features. We'll go to guard post. We'll change it to guard place because you think that sounds better. Okay, now at the bottom it says guard place, right? So to say it's open source, it means you get the source files, those are open, and you can change it, and you can just give this out to the wider internet, and they'll tell you your Python's rubbish because this is not a very good script yet. But in theory, you can, so that's the important bit there. Now for a quick one-on-one comparison, I'm going to jump over to my Gemini capsule. If you have a Gemini browser like Lagrange, you can go across to tptrpgs.com, and yeah, just look at this. I think this makes it fairly clear. GPL will allow you to, or an open source license of some kind should allow you to receive source files so that you can make modifications to those things. I've gone with the GNU public license rather than the Creative Commons because the Creative Commons will just protect the PDF, and nobody really needs the PDF to make changes. You need the source files. So since that's what's necessary, I've gone with a license that protects that. The Open Gaming license, you can't request any source files, none whatsoever. Permission to copy the rules, again, no. The OGL will say that maybe there'll be a system reference document and you can refer to the document. Thing is though, I can already refer to books that I own. It's called a bibliography. You don't need a special license to have a bibliography. You don't even need to go to university. You can just have a bibliography and then write an adventure and say, if you want to use this with Dungeons and Dragons, the actual name, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, then you can use it. And you might use the fighting rules, which are over on page Dum-Tee-Dum in this book, which I own. You can refer to the books you own, including when writing stories. Unless you're using the OGL, then you have fewer rights than somebody with no license. Again, the OGL prohibits you from doing things. It doesn't allow you to do extra things. Oh, where's that gone? Ah, squash my table. Right, so GPL allows you to use themes. What is themes? I don't know, but I do know the OGL, the GPL. The GPL will allow you to use any themes or poses that you like. What on earth is this talking about? I think it's talking about some front cover of a Dungeons and Dragons thing where you have a drow being like, "Wah, I've got a sword," and then that way of standing is like the Wizards of the Coast think that they own the copyright because they want to copyright everything to stop anyone creating things based on their stuff. If anyone's creating things, you need to start from nothing because they have already started. Well, they didn't start, they bought, but they have already bought all the hard work done by Gary Gygax and other people in TSR and whatnot. So since they paid for it, you shouldn't be able to then add anything. That's the idea. And of course, if they don't want the OGL, it'll just go away tomorrow. And that may well be happening. They're talking about just removing the Open Game license so that any independent creators who are publishing adventures for fun or as a job can no longer do that. But here with the GPL, and with some, not all but some Creative Commons licenses, if it's open, it will remain open forever. If you get a copy of like that dungeon or anything I've made which is open, then it will remain open forever. Yeah, that's the OGL, and it is no open source. Please stop saying it's open source. Please don't pass along any articles saying that these things are open source. And remember, this is so open source. This is so not open source that Frylock, this guy here, has been sued by Wizards of the Coast for publishing a Goblin stats block or something like that, or a few other stat blocks. I mean, this is just madness. There's no use saying something is open if you can get sued for doing a stat block roughly in the style of things, which at this point, honestly, is just like a folk tradition. So yeah, Wizards of the Coast, unbloody believable.